18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. We're in regular session tonight, and our first item of business is to establish a quorum, and all members of council are present. Next, we have communications. There have been 3 that city council members have received. The first of which is a notice from the Department of Commerce that Stevens Fine Dining Corporation at 66 North Court Street has applied for a new D3A liquor permit, and this would extend the issue permit privileges until 2:30 in the morning. And council has been given until June 4th if they would want to respond regarding this application. Second item is a business or announcement is that the city street department will be doing what's called a smoke test, and I believe they use smoke to check through the sewer lines, and that's going to be happening on North Court Street. And because of that, the left lane will be closed, and that's on May 19th starting at 9 a.m. And then our street department also announced that there will be some closures this week on Stimson Avenue due to the construction going on. There will be closings at various points during the week for Campbell Street and Cornwell Street. And those are all the communications I have. Are there communications from any other communications from council members? If not, then we'll move on to communications and reports from other elected officials. Law Director Eliason?
No.
Auditor Hecht?
No report.
Okay. And Mayor Patterson? Oh, Mayor Patterson, you're muted.
Once a meeting. President Nisley, I have a couple items to share with council tonight. First off, is that next week, the International Town Gown Association's conference will be starting May 24th through the 26th, of which I will be presenting on several panels. But just to put that out there for people who might be interested in international town gown relationships. The other item I have for tonight is I'm pretty sure I've shared this with council already, and that is that the city is being recognized by EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, as being a certificate of community partnership under the Green Power Partner Program. We're being recognized by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Green Power Partnership in recognition of our efforts to reduce the negative health impacts of air emissions through the use of green power. To kind of give you an overview as to what that really means is that residential, commercial, as well as the municipal buildings are averaging annually 37 million kilowatt hours of green energy consumption for the city of Athens, which is wonderful. Ohio University was also recognized as being in the top 30 colleges and universities in the nation for their same efforts of using renewable energy. So that's all I have for tonight, President Nisley.
Thank you, Mayor Patterson. We'll move on now to our ordinances for third reading. The first one is 5421. This is an ordinance authorizing wastewater remote site telemetry improvements, and is project number 339, introduced by Councilman Brace.
Thank you, President Nisley. I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 5421.
Okay. And we have a second from Councilmember Fall.
Thank you, Member Fall. This is the ordinance that authorizes the Service Safety Director to advertise and accept bids where necessary and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder for construction of wastewater remote site telemetry improvements. And these are for monitoring of our remote wastewater locations. And the appropriation ordinance will be amended to appropriate from the unappropriated balance the sum of $540,000 to sewer plant fund, and increasing the total appropriations by said amount. and the service safety director is authorized to expend up to that $540,000 from the sewer plant fund for the purchase of the necessary equipment for this telemetry.
Okay. So we have a motion and second for approval. Any comments or questions from council members, other elected officials, or our attendees? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 5521 is an ordinance amending the 2021 appropriation ordinance and authorizing inter-fund transfers and is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. I'd like to make a motion to approve 05521.
Second.
From Councilmember Smedley.
Thank you, Member Smedley. This appropriation ordinance has a number of items. It includes $11,000 to the Athens Enhancement Fund, $29,233.96 to the CARES Act Fund, which will also be transferred to the public safety payroll, $289,000 to the sewer fund to cover our debt payments, $35,000 to the stormwater fund for the environmental coordinator, and $9,000 to the stormwater fund, both for the Athens Soil and Water Conservation District's public education and outreach program, and also supplies and postage. And section 2 includes the two transfers, the $29,233.96 from the CARES Act fund to the general fund, and the $289,000 from the sewer fund to the sewer debt fund. Thank you, President Isley.
Thank you. We have a motion and second for approval of the ordinance. Are there any comments or questions from council members, elected officials, attendees? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. 5621 is an ordinance amending the 2021 staffing levels authorized by ordinance 14120 and is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. I'd like to make a motion to approve 05621.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Member Eisner. This is pretty straightforward. This corrects our staffing ordinance for the correct percentages for the salary of the environmental coordinator and where they come from. So it is 25% from water and 25% from sewer and 50% from storm sewer. Thank you, President Isley.
Thank you. We have a motion and second. Any comments or questions from council members, elected officials, or our attendees? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We'll move on to ordinance 5721. This is an ordinance granting a special right-of-way permit to Ohio University to allow installation of a campus shuttle stop at 9 Factory Street. It is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we adopt 5721.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Grace.
It is to grant a special right-of-way permit to the university to put a bus shelter way stop in. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion and second for approval. Any comments or questions from council members, elected officials, or our attendees? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember Fall. Ordinance 5821 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application and execute an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for Transportation Improvement District funding and declaring an emergency. And this was introduced by Councilmember Clodfelter, but I believe Councilmember Crowell will be speaking for this tonight. Is that? Could we have you do that tonight?
Yes, I can, President Isley.
Thank you.
Hold on a second. I have to get on the right page here.
And this is for an application that's due to May 31st deadline for an application. Yeah.
Correct. So this really just as President Isley indicated, authorizes the mayor to submit an application with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the TID funds, the Transportation Improvement District. And we need to meet a May 31st, 21 application due date.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion and second. I think we got it. Yes, we did get a second, correct? Or did we?
Well, I'm sorry. Do we need to suspend the rules for this ordinance?
Well, it is a third reading, so we need to go
Right.
ahead and make a motion to approve.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt 05821.
Sorry.
Second.
And now we have a second from Councilmember Grace. You'll get us back on track, Councilmember Crowell. And any other questions or discussion from council members, elected officials, or our attendees? And it does look like we do have a question from one of our attendees. And if you want to identify yourself, name and address, and if you represent a group.
Hi. Yes, my name is Joe Mama.
Okay. And your address?
I believe that's not authorized.
Joe Mama.
Okay. Thank you very much. We won't worry about that because it doesn't look like there's a comment. So we have a motion and second for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Thank you. We do have another ordinance. It was originally introduced by Councilmember Clodfelter, the next two, in fact, 59 and 60. So this next one is also for a third reading. It's 5921. This is the ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application and enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for small city program funds for program year 2021 and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Clodfelter originally, but Councilmember Crowell, if you would speak to this tonight or make a motion.
Yes, President Isley. Be happy to. Thank you. It pretty much is all in the description. The application deadline is June 15th, 2021. And so we would like to pass this tonight. I'd like to make a motion to approve 05921.
And a second from Councilmember Ziff. Thank you. And do we have any questions or comments? If none, from council members, elected officials, or our attendees, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 6021 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application to participate in the state capital improvement and or local transportation improvement programs, issue one funds, to execute contracts as required. Originally introduced by Councilmember Clodfelter.
And I'll be happy to introduce this tonight, President Isley.
Thank you.
Yet again, more work for the mayor's office. This is another approval of, as the title indicates, for the mayor to submit an application. And I think we've been rather successful with the state capital improvement and local transportation improvement programs, these issue one funds. I'd like to make a motion to approve 06021.
We have a second from Councilmember Paul. And do we have any questions or comments? If none from council members or elected officials or attendees, then we'll proceed with a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, the motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Thank you all. And thanks to the city administration for all the hard work for getting these applications ready. We get the easy part of it in approving the authorization to apply, but these grants are difficult to process, and they help make our projects around the city possible, in their contributions to all our different projects going on for streets and sewer. So thanks. We now have ordinances for first reading and a series of them. So we'll have the council members introduce them. If we have any comments or questions, we can entertain some of that this evening too. Ordinance 6221 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a 10-year lease agreement with the United Seniors of Athens County for space utilization in the community center. It is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. This is, as the title describes, the lease agreement with the United Seniors in the Community Center to begin August 1st, 2021 and through July 31st, 2031. That pretty much says it all.
Okay. And any comments or questions from council members or elected officials or attendees? Okay. Ordinance 6321 is an ordinance amending the general fund administrative cost allocation policy established by Ordinance 6715, introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. This is the formal way that the city charges departments or funds for the city's administrative services. And as indicated, this has not been updated, looking at the percentages that come from each department for this service, these services. And so this is an update to the 2015 ordinance. And it is duly noted that the auditor's office has requested this and is handling this. Thank you, President Isley.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? If not, we'll move on to Ordinance 6421. This is an ordinance amending the Internal Service Fund cost allocation policy established by Ordinance 12415, introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. The copy of this does have Mr. Reisner at the top of it, but that's quite all right, but that can be amended for the next meeting. And this is like the administrative fund. This is the internal service fund allocation. Again, this is being updated from 2015. And that pretty much says it all. Thank you, President Isley.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Yes, Auditor Hecht.
I was just going to mention that the internal service, the first ordinance that we looked at is where we pay for vehicle and equipment repairs, and the supports the IT department for the whole city. These are both funds that provide services for the entire city. The internal service fund is the general fund that pays for services such as auditor, mayor, treasurer, law director, and HR, things like that. That's it.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. That's helpful information to have. All right, if no other questions, we'll move on to Ordinance 6521. This is an ordinance amending the 2021 appropriation ordinance and authorizing the auditor to make an inter-fund transfer, introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. This has a number of items in it, including $90,000 to the water fund for water valve exercising equipment, as discussed at committee and actually last year as well. $200,000 to the water fund. This is for a transfer so we can make our January payment. And $25,000 to the sewer fund for equipment, including to replace or rebuild a motor and a UTV needed by the wastewater treatment plant. And then the Section 2 authorizes the auditor to transfer from the water fund to the water debt fund that amount of $200,000. Thank you, President Isley.
Thank you.
I'm unable to hear President Isley. Is anyone else having that same issue?
I cannot hear her. She's frozen.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
I think you're back.
Am I back? Oh, good. Okay. Thank you. We're moving on to ordinance 6621. This is an ordinance authorizing a contract for right-of-way acquisition services for the West Union Street Improvements Project number 322, introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. This, again, as President Isley mentioned in the title, is about our one of our last remaining arteries to be improved, West Union Street, and it's number 322. And there will be a need to do some acquisition of property in order to effectively rehabilitate the street. This ordinance appropriates money to $1,000 to the street fund, and then the service safety director is authorized to expend for services related to the acquisition of property. This is not purchasing the property itself, but this is the sort of engineering and design work necessary to figure out which property acquisitions are going to have to be made. Thank you, President Isley.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from council members, elected officials, or attendees? Okay, we'll move on to 6721. This is an ordinance closing a portion of Union Street between Court and College on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 from 5 to 9 p.m., welcoming the National Vulcan Riders Association and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. This is a request to close a portion of Union Street, which we have done in years past for this group to promote tourism and the use of our businesses downtown. So this would close that section of Union Street where BW3s and Goodfellas Pizza and Starbucks, etc., are from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. This would mean that there would be no parking between I'm sorry. The ordinance reads Court and College, but isn't it Court and Congress?
I thought it was, I think it was mentioned Court and Congress in the discussion last week, but I paused because I thought that I remembered Deputy Service Safety Director Chicky saying that Court and College is what makes it possible, so it's not shutting off emergency access. If we shut it off between Congress and Court, we would be shutting off major emergency access to downtown Court Street, and this way I think it leaves it open.
I certainly would like it to be what's safest for the city of Athens. I just want to make sure it's correct. I was under the impression that the previous time they did this, it was between Congress and Court. So I assumed it was the same, but if this is correct, I don't know. Does anyone? Well, we can maybe amend it if necessary.
We can. We could amend it on the 7th when we read it again. And I see Councilmember Grace might have some additional information too. Yes.
Just that my memory is the same as Member Crowell, that previously it was in that block between Congress and Court. At least that's what I understood it was before. So.
Well,
so at least we had the same recollection, Member Crowell.
Okay.
Well, I guess the public should know that we will be closing a block of Union, and it will either be between Congress and Court Street or between Court and College for this group of Vulcan riders to come to Athens.
Thank you for noting this, Councilmember Crowell. And we'll get it straightened out, or we'll get it confirmed what street by next regular session. Thank you. All right. If no other questions on that, we'll move on to 6821. This is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a subrecipient contract with Ohio University, authorizing the expenditure to implement a wastewater-based COVID-19 surveillance program and declaring an emergency, and is introduced by Councilmember Grace.
Thank you, President Nisley. And this is the program that was discussed in committee a couple of different times, and is a great opportunity for the city. I'll read the whereases to sort of describe what we have coming, but it's whereas the city has been awarded the Target of Opportunity CDBG CV grant by the Ohio Development Services Agency Office of Community Development, and whereas said grant project is a public service activity to directly respond to COVID-19 infections, and whereas the city will coordinate with Ohio University to install wastewater sampling devices in city sewer manholes, and whereas the city will coordinate with Ohio University and the Athens City County Health Department to monitor the presence of the virus in the community and track infection trends, and whereas once the pandemic is over, these sampling stations can be used to detect other viruses and possible outbreaks. So this is a really fantastic opportunity, something that is entirely grant funded that will help our community stay ahead of viral outbreaks. And it really is fantastic for the health and safety of our community members. So this ordinance will authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with the university because we are partnering on this project. And the appropriation ordinance is amended with $20,538 to CDBG fund, 248 TC 500, and $62,562 to CDBG fund 248 TC 300, and so the total appropriation is $83,100.
Okay. Any questions or comments? If not, from our council members, elected officials, or our attendees, and we'll move on to the next ordinance. And that's 6921, an ordinance authorizing design engineering services for the water treatment plant softener rehabilitation project number 338, introduced by Councilmember Grace.
Thank you, President Nisley. This is exactly what the title says that it is. It is authorizing design engineering services for rehabilitation of our water treatment plant softener system. And the appropriation accompanying this authorization is $50,000.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? If not, then we will move on to ordinance 7021. This is an ordinance authorizing the disposal of certain fire department equipment no longer needed for a municipal purpose, and is introduced by Councilmember Grace.
Thank you again, President Nisley. This ordinance is again, something that it's great that we as a city are able to do. We have some equipment that our fire department is no longer in need of, some self-contained breathing apparatus, air mask harnesses and regulators. And this authorizes our fire department to donate the equipment that they no longer need to the Waterloo Volunteer Fire Department. And it is used equipment, but is still in serviceable condition and will hopefully be beneficial to that department.
Great. Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from council members, elected officials, or our attendees? If not, we'll move on to the next one, and that is ordinance 7121, an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title I, General Provisions, to add Title 45, Fees, to include a fee for an historic preservation design review application, introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. It's exactly what that is. We have a process that now has no fee associated with it. It will be a $70 fee when you go through that process. Thank you.
Thanks. Questions or comments? If none, we'll move on to Ordinance 7221. This is an ordinance amending Athens City Code, Title III, Administrative Provisions, Unlawful Discriminatory Practices, introduced by Councilmember Smedley.
Thank you, President Nisley. As we discussed a couple times in committee, this is an ordinance that would add source of income to our ordinance called Title III Administrative Provisions, specifically Section C, discrimination in housing. It also adjusts our penalty section related to this ordinance. It clarifies some detail about the degree of the misdemeanor, and it also adds in not more than $150. Now, when we discussed this in committee, it was $100, but in further research, we saw that City Code has the dollar amount for a misdemeanor at $150. So that is a slight change from our committee discussion, and that is what that ordinance is about. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments or questions from council members or elected officials or attendees? If none, we'll move on to one reading resolutions. Resolution 821 is a resolution authorizing the City of Athens to become a Power a Clean Future Ohio community, and to adopt a goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the city. This is introduced by all members of council. And Councilmember Crowell, I believe you spoke to us last time about this resolution.
Yes, I'd be happy to introduce this.
Thank you.
I am not going to read all of the resolution, all of the whereases. I will read a few here. Whereas Power a Clean Future Ohio is an expansive, diverse coalition engaging with cities and local governments across the state of Ohio to build a clean future for our communities, and empowers local leaders with tools and resources to create carbon reduction plans and implement them in ways that are achievable, measurable, equitable, and economical. And whereas steps taken toward carbon emissions also aim to improve community quality of life, building community capital, and increasing government efficiency, accountability, and transparency. And whereas local governments have the unique opportunity to achieve both energy use and carbon emission reductions and cost savings through building and facilities management, land use and transportation planning, and through economic and community development. And whereas the Athens Environment and Sustainability Commission has convened public meetings to identify key recommendations to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And whereas Power a Clean Future Ohio fosters technical assistance for the implementation of carbon reduction policies. And whereas Power a Clean Future Ohio provides cost-effective, sustainable development policies in the following four categories: renewable energy, energy efficiency, transportation, electrification, and use. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Council of the City of Athens, Ohio. Section 1, Athens City Council does hereby authorize the City of Athens to participate in Power a Clean Future Ohio that offers free, voluntary, continuous improvement framework. Passage of this participation resolution allows the city to be recognized as a bronze Power a Clean Future community. Athens hereby commits to the following: a goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the City of Athens by 50% below 2010 levels by 2030. The City of Athens will prioritize the lowest cost measures identified in the plan to meet energy needs, to be mindful of the use of taxpayer dollars and any impact of consumers' personal expenses, and will claim credit for having implemented and will work at its own pace towards implementing any policies from two of the PCFO policy categories that will result in carbon emissions reductions, cost savings, and quality of life improvement. Thank you, President Nisley.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for bringing this forward. Do we have any comments or questions? Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. A couple of weeks ago, our now ex-councilperson, Beth Clodfelter, had a challenge for people to think about what all the different types of ordinances and policies that we have passed as a body that contributes to sustainability. And this feeds right into it. This is we're building on a foundation that we have been working on forever. So I went home and, well, I was home, but I came up with a list, and I just, from thinking about it, came up with a list of 25 things easily. Going from expansion of the bus service and Go Bus, now it goes to Chansey, and you can get to all the 3 cities really easily. We've been doing our energy audit long time ago. We've been doing composting. We had one of the first curbside recycling. We've used pool saltwater processes and our filtration processes to lower chlorine, and on and on and on. And so I challenge for the rest of council to think about those and to say, yes, we can do 50% easily. We are a city that we are a can-do city, and I would love to be able to print this in the newspaper so that people know exactly what we've done and what we've built on before with a lot of the other council members that we've worked on. They're amazing stuff that they've done. So I fully support this. It's within the climate emergency declaration that the city is still under. So thank you.
Thanks for those updates, Councilmember Fall. Okay. If no other comments or questions, we'll now move on to a resolution 921, and this is excuse me. We need a motion and a second and a vote.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 0821. President Isley, we lost your audio again.
And I'm sorry, I think I was frozen for a moment.
Yeah, you're back.
My apologies. I'm back. All right. And did somebody make a motion and a second?
I made a motion. I think there was a second down there from Fall.
Thank you so much. Okay. And if no other comments or questions, and before we freeze up again, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the resolution is approved. Thanks so much. Now we'll move on to resolution 921, and this is a resolution expressing the appreciation of the City of Athens, Ohio, to Councilmember Beth Clodfelter for her public service, and is introduced by all members of council. And I believe Councilmember Fall will be introducing this for us.
Great. Thank you. I move that we adopt resolution 0921. Thank you.
And we have a second from Councilmember Grace.
Great. I will read it as written. A resolution expressing the appreciation of the City of Athens, Ohio, to Councilmember Beth Clodfelter for her public service. Whereas Beth Clodfelter served the Athens community as an at-large member of council from January 1st, 2020 through May 14th, 2021. And whereas Beth Clodfelter was an energetic participant in all council meetings, and whereas Beth Clodfelter took time to seek out citizens' opinions with her constituent meetings, and whereas Beth Clodfelter asked pertinent questions concerning city revenue and expenditures balanced to ensure careful review of city finances. And whereas Beth Clodfelter brought expertise and shared her knowledge about sustainability from her work with various community organizations. And whereas Beth Clodfelter has generously given her time as a public servant, and this council wishes her well in her future endeavors. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of Athens, Ohio. The City of Athens does hereby express its appreciation to Beth Clodfelter for her faithful and distinguished service to the city as an at-large member of Athens City Council. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilmember Fall.
I just like to say we as constituents are not really losing her because she's going on to being able to help more community members in her new job. And so it's just awesome. So yay for Beth.
It is a good move for her. We will miss her though. Okay, we have a motion and second for approval of the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the resolution is approved. We now have announcements and other business. And the first is to confirm the mayor's appointment to the Athens Municipal Arts Commission. And I believe Councilmember Rice has that motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to confirm the mayor's appointment to the Athens Municipal Art Commission of Holly Eatle. I've reviewed her CV that was sent to me. She's extremely well qualified. And I think the Athens Municipal Art Commission will be very, very fortunate to have her as a member. So I make a motion that we confirm this person.
Okay. And we have a motion and we have a second from Councilmember Fall. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the appointment is approved. And we thank her in advance for the service to that commission. We now have, if we could have a motion for accepting the April 2021 financial reports, which all council members have received for review. Moved by Councilmember Fall to approve, second from Councilmember Grace. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries and they've been approved. And our last motion is to accept the credit card transactions for April 2021. If we could have a motion for accepting those. Moved by Councilmember Fall. And second from Councilmember Ziff. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion carries and those credit card transactions have been accepted. We do have an opportunity now for citizens to, and before I relieve the announcements, just to announce that next week will be a council committee meeting week. And if there are items to bring before the committees, if you could let our clerk of council, Debbie Walker, know by Wednesday, that would be help so we can publish this in time to let the public know what the agenda is. Thank you. Any other announcements that anyone wants to make? If not, we'll move on to an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services not covered on the agenda tonight. Is there anyone amongst the attendees that is wishing to make a comment? It does look like we have Cole Behrens who wants to make a comment. And please state full name and address so that, and if you represent a group, so that we have that for the record.
This is Cole Behrens from the Athens Messenger. Is it okay if I ask a question?
We don't typically get involved in that kind of discussion when we have the opportunity to speak, but I would be more than glad to speak with you, as would any of the council members, immediately after the meeting, and we will be available. Is that thank you for being here, and we can answer your questions later. Thanks. All right, and I don't think there are any other persons who have their hand raised to make an opportunity to speak or make a comment. And if not, then we would have a motion to adjourn our meeting tonight.
Moved.
And we have a from Councilmember Smedley and a second from Councilmember Crowell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries, and that is approved, and we are adjourned at 7:45 p.m. and we'll see you all next week for a